When you think of Universal Studios today, you might picture theme parks, rides and roller coasters, Minions, Fast and Furious, Jurassic World, Harry Potter World. But in the 1930s, Universal was still very much the house that Carl Laemmle built. My great uncle, Carl Laemmle. He founded Universal in 1912 and built Universal City in Los Angeles, where it still stands today. Uncle Carl's son Jr. was just 21 years old when he became head of production at Universal. And imagine that, just barely out of teenagehood, and you're already running a major Hollywood studio. And Jr. didn't play it safe. He made the bold decision to invest heavily in horror. This was a gamble. Horror was not a Hollywood staple at the time, but he believed that audiences wanted spectacle, and he thought that they would be excited by something bigger and stranger than the melodramas, westerns, and family comedies that they were used to. At least he knew that that's what he was interested in. His decision gave us Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, the Bride of Frankenstein, the Wolf Man, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon, plus a chain reaction of sequels and spin-offs that all became the Universal monsters. And later on, Quasimodo and the Phantom got looped in there too. These movies didn't just define horror, they also saved Universal and put the studio on the map internationally. They created a template that studios still copy today when they're launching cinematic universes. So when we're talking about the deaths of the Universal monsters, we're not just talking about cool endings. We're talking about the ways these films wrapped up stories that changed Hollywood forever. But I'll be honest, some deaths hit better than others. Some are so sad or satisfying or scary, and some just fall a little flat. We're going to rank the deaths of these Universal monsters, starting with the endings that maybe didn't feel so deadly and ending with the most powerful, the ones that leave me absolutely reeling after the fact. And you guys know I'm never afraid of a fight, so I want you all to leave a comment every time you think I got one wrong. And this is a good time to remind you that if you love these Universal and classic horror deep dives, make sure that you're subscribed so you never miss another video. Let's start with the worst. This is the monster that kicked off the Universal Monster franchise as we know it today, and it is kicking off this list. Dracula. Bela Lugosi's Dracula may be one of the most iconic monster movies in cinema history, but his death is shockingly underwhelming. There's so much build-up. Mina descending the stairs under Dracula's spell, the confrontation with Renfield, and Harker and Van Helsing trying to get there on time. And Van Helsing drives a stake into Dracula's heart, except we never see it. We see his arm go up, we hear a clang, a gasp, and that's it. We never even get to hear a dramatic scream. There's never a cutaway to a coffin or ashes, nothing to show us that Dracula is dead. And it is such an anticlimactic ending to what is otherwise an iconic character. Moving on, we have another one of my favorite Universal Monster movies, but another one lacking in the death department, Creature from the Black Lagoon. The Gill Man is one of Universal's last great monsters, but he deserved better than this, even if we are talking about his death. Just like Dracula, we have a strong lead up. There's spear guns, knives, a rock thrown at him that for the longest time for some reason I thought was a coconut. And finally, they get him with real guns. All the while, Kay just stands hugging the wall in different positions. But then they decide to let the monster go, and he stumbles back to the water one last time, disappearing beneath the surface of the lagoon. There's of course something poetic about him returning to the water one last time, but it just doesn't pack a punch like some of the other Universal monster deaths do. And I don't know exactly what I do want, but I just want more. And I acknowledge that this death is ambiguous. I'm intrigued, right? Did he even die? We gotta leave the door open for those Universal sequels. But it just doesn't hit the way some of the other Universal monster deaths do. So here it lies. Next, we're moving on to a movie that a lot of people don't even count as a Universal monster movie. I sometimes do, I sometimes don't. Today, I do. The movie is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, if I really think about it, it's probably not a Universal monster movie. It's not a horror, it's a drama. And Quasimodo isn't some supernatural monster, he's just a human twisted by society's cruelty. The finale of The Hunchback is rife with misunderstandings. Quasimodo has given Esmeralda sanctuary in the cathedral after she's sentenced to death, but Jahan tries to take her, and then Clopin leads a storming of the cathedral. It's a whole big mess. Quasimodo does everything he can to fend the intruders off and keep Esmeralda safe. He manages to save her from Jahan, but he's stabbed in the process and dies under his famous bell. Lon Chaney's makeup and performance make The Hunchback unforgettable, but the death itself feels preventable, inevitable. And honestly, I know it's 1923, but just the tiniest bit silly when you see it in action. It is a sad death, it has deep meaning, but it's not the Universal monster demise I'm looking for. So, on to the next. And it's funny because we're already getting to the deaths where I feel bad that they're this low on the list. So I want to be clear that a lot of these deaths I do enjoy. Let's skip 9 years ahead to 1932's The Mummy. Imhotep is a man, or a mummy, trying to win back his lost love from lifetimes ago. He is sure his love Oxenamen is now Helen Grosvenor. Similar to Dracula, Imhotep has hypnotized his target, and when she awakens with him, she remembers him and remembers their past life together. But she doesn't want to die with him again. He almost gets his way, but at the last second, she calls upon the goddess Isis. And just then, Edward Van Sloan and David Manners come in to save her, and the statue of Isis raises its arm, the scroll lights on fire, and Imhotep becomes dust, bit by bit. The final shot of the film is Imhotep's skeletal remains on the floor. There's a lot going on in this death. It's kitschy, it's fun. I genuinely have no complaints. I know we're only 3 or 4 deaths in, but we are genuinely on deaths that I enjoy. But that's just how much better these Universal monster deaths are gonna get. Like just the next year in 1933, Universal gave us The Invisible Man. Claude Rains' Jack Griffin spends most of the film laughing maniacally, drunk on the power of invisibility. But when the police finally track him down in the snow, his arrogance has caught up to him. He is mortally wounded and taken to the hospital. And there, with his girl by his side, Griffin dies. In his final moments, he speaks with clarity. He says, "I failed. I meddled in things man must leave alone." And then in death, his body returns to visibility. First, we see just his skull, then faintly his skin, and finally, he looks like a man again. Those final words reveal the humanity that was inside all along. And I love how the camera pans out. I feel almost emphasizing his size. Like when he's invisible, he probably feels so huge sometimes. Like he could just be looming over you, this giant amorphous thing. But now he's in this bed. They have his blankies tucked in so tightly around his side. It really makes him look so teeny tiny small. It's not necessarily a dramatic ending. It's not a spectacle. But there's something really powerful about it, how his monstrousness is completely stripped away, and now he's just a dead human on the table. I'm honestly starting to wonder if I regret not putting this higher. Let's travel back in time again for our number 4 spot, the other sometimes Universal monsters, sometimes not, 1925's Phantom of the Opera. The Hunchback can be very controversial about whether or not he's a Universal monster. I think people are happy to include the Phantom. No, he's not supernatural, and he's not part of the franchise that was launched by Junior, but he does partake in scary activities, unlike our purely tragic, misunderstood, and maligned Hunchback. The Phantom has made many enemies on his quest to make Christine a star. He's captured her and brought her to his lair, and he's captured her love and a detective who is after him too, and now they're in danger. Oh, and also there's a giant mob after him. The Phantom tries to escape on a horse and carriage. He's wild. The torch-wielding mob is after him. It's intense. Christine, terrified, leaps out of the carriage, and soon after he loses control and the whole thing topples. He wants to go after Christine, but instead he runs past Notre Dame, down by the river. He taunts the crowd in one final act of defiance, and he's swarmed and thrown in the water for good. Unlike the off-screen deaths or those fade in and outs, this death is violent, it's raw, it is on screen, and it is perfectly dramatic for a character who thrived on melodrama. We are already on our number 3 spot, and we have to talk about the Wolfman. Larry Talbot's story is steeped in tragedy from the start, and his death seals it. Larry is doomed to transform into his Wolfman form during the full moon, and he would do anything to rid himself from the curse. In wolf form, he can't resist the urge to attack others, and he hates it. Lon Chaney Jr. was perfect for this role, bringing his own struggles to the screen. He tries to convince his dad, played by the Invisible Man's Claude Rains, that he is indeed the Wolfman, but his dad, of course, doesn't believe him. Instead, he ties Larry to a chair to prove he's lost his mind, and then abandons him in the chair to fend for himself. Classic dad behavior. Lon Chaney does such a great job here, looking so dejected and so scared for his dad. Once transformed, the final scene has the Wolfman stalking his love Gwen through the fog as torch-wielding villagers hunt him, and his dad too runs through the wood with his cane, unsure of what to believe anymore. The music here climaxes so well as the Wolfman attacks Gwen, and his own father beats him off with the silver head of his cane. His father beats mercilessly on him, believing he's killing a monster, only to see him transform back into his son. It's heartbreaking to see him realize what he did, and whether intentional or not, somebody identifies Larry as the hero who tried to save Gwen instead of the Wolfman who had tried to attack her. One final reprieve for his father as we fade to black. This ending has everything: drama, action, twists, and turns. I've said it before, the Wolfman is not my favorite Universal monster, but this is certainly one of my favorite Universal monster movie endings. Okay, number 2 is a surprise for me: The Bride of Frankenstein. Anyone who knows me knows that this is my number 1 favorite Universal monster movie, but for some reason the number 1 today, when I was thinking about it, just hit my heart that much harder, and Bride of Frankenstein ended up at number 2. It's an amazing movie. It's an amazing ending, an amazing death. Today it's number 2. Talk to me another day, I might change my mind. The Bride of Frankenstein is near perfection, and the same goes for her unveiling. Dr. Pretorius announces her, bells ring, and she is revealed. The monster who we just spent an entire movie connecting with, empathizing with on his search for love and connection, when he lays eyes on the bride for the first time, he's naturally optimistic. Friend? But he's rebuked. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't even know who she is. She just woke up to this room of weirdos suddenly trying to pair her off with another monster. She lets out a piercing scream, but the monster tries again. He takes her hand, but still, as he says, "She hate me." That's enough for him. This world was not made for him. He was not made for this world. He saves Henry, maybe seeing that he has his mate in Elizabeth, but Pretorius, the bride, and our monster all meet certain death as the monster pulls the lever to blow them all to atoms. For once, the monster's in charge of his fate, and he chooses death over loneliness. It's a fantastic ending to a fantastic movie, but it just doesn't quite make me feel or real the way number 1 does. So who is number 1? Frankenstein. Have that déjà vu feeling? Yeah, we're talking about the same monster, different movie. But hey, I don't want to be predictable, but there's a reason Frankenstein is one of the most famous monster movies of all time. And there's a reason it's one of my favorites too. Maria is dead, Elizabeth has been traumatized, the villagers are on the hunt, and our poor monster has been chased up a windmill. And here we get our ultimate showdown: monster versus maker. Frankenstein versus Frankenstein. It is intense. The monster is clearly terrified and betrayed. More than backed into a corner, he is literally up a windmill with no escape. Henry lands limp like a dummy on the blade of a windmill. Well, let's be real, it probably was a dummy. But even so, it's still pretty twisted. Somehow Henry survives, but without him in the windmill, there is no reason for the villagers to consider saving it anymore. They light the whole thing on fire. And now the monster's fear is dialed up to 100. He screams, he flails. I tear up sometimes watching it. The monster is no more than a child. He has no understanding of the consequences of his actions, and he spent the entire film being taunted, ostracized, and now murdered. He does not deserve death. He deserves a hug. The monster's death is full of action and intensity. There's no illusion or innuendo. You are trapped with him for a while. I honestly think it rivals modern horror movies in its horror, and that is why it is firmly my #1 spot. But of course, in the end, none of the monsters really died. Some because they got sequels and remakes, all of them because they live on forever in our hearts and minds. And every time we press play on one of their movies, they rise again. Don't forget to tell me your ranking in the comments and share this video with one of your friends so you guys can share rankings. Don't forget, if you love these Universal and classic horror deep dives, subscribe, hit the like button, the notification bell, do all the things. And don't forget, paid members get bonus videos, pictures, and more, and it's the best way to support Universally Me. Thank you. Bye.